Okay, so we have some clinical, admissions, business office, and scheduling, accounts payable, radiology. So a good cross-section of everybody in case management. All right, so I'm Ann. If I haven't met you before, I apologize for that. I try to get to orientation, but sometimes that doesn't happen. If you're new to SSC or haven't been to a forum yet, we try to do these quarterly, try to, and attaining sometimes is a little different because a quarter goes so quickly. But we try to get together so that I have an opportunity to tell you where SSC is in terms of their goals and give you an opportunity to ask any questions you may have. So if you've been to a forum before, the agenda is the same, right? We're going to go through the questions that were submitted at the last forum, where we are year to date with our results, how those results are impacted by what's going on internally within the organization as well as external to the organization, and then give you an opportunity to ask any questions. You can ask any questions at any time. This is meant to be somewhat interactive, not meant to be a, hey, I just want to vomit all of my grievances to you. But if you have those, we want to hear about them, so we'll talk about that as well. So the last time we met was in October. You asked if we could have a 4-day weekend for our Christmas holiday. Check, we did that, right? So we heard you and we listened. We asked if we could have air freshener in the restrooms, very important. Which we did. We had a few patient complaints about the air freshener in the restrooms, but it's still there. We wanted a reduced price Coke machine in the OR lounge because Brock has a 25-cent Coke machine. So that's in progress. We're still working on that. Try to figure out how to make that happen.
Not there. Not Brock.
No, it would be in the OR lounge, but yeah, you would have access to it. Yeah, so, or we may even do two, one on the first floor, one on the second, one on the third. Brock's working to try to get me in contact with the people at Coke who make this happen. Yeah. Apparently that's what's been more difficult. We needed new microwaves on the inpatient unit, check, and then can we have a Christmas party? So we didn't have a Christmas party, but we're gonna have a party, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. So we made a little progress with the questions that were asked. So as far as our goals, our main goal here is to make sure that our patients are highly satisfied, right? We want high patient satisfaction. As any hospital does, they want to make sure that patients are happy when they're here and that they actually refer, either their family or friends or come back to us. So Press Ganey is our patient satisfaction survey vendor. They're a national company, so anyone who has surgery here, that's an adult, a random sampling will receive a survey, and if they're kind enough to send it back, then those results get calculated and reported. And so there's two surveys, one for patients who leave the same day after surgery, and then those patients who go to the inpatient unit, because once you're on the inpatient unit, it's a little bit different in terms of cleanliness and did you like the food and, were we responsive to your needs? So that's why there's the two different surveys. The overall question is, would you rank the facility a 9 or a 10? So, a strong A. And we want at least 95% of our patients to tell us, yes, I would rank you an A. And they did. So these are our results for the first quarter. You can tell year to date, 96% of patients who responded to the survey ranked us a 9 or a 10. And this 95% is the percentile ranking. So that means like facilities as ours, we are performing better than 95% of those. Okay, only 5% are performing better. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So this is good news, yay. Okay, that happens, patients are satisfied when we have satisfied employees, right? As far as the inpatient, and then that's just graphical. Inpatient has done a stellar job. They continue to improve year over year with their inpatient scores, which is interesting too, because when we had fewer patients in the past, our scores were lower, and now they're turning over the unit, sometimes 100% turnover in one shift, and our patients are just as satisfied, if not more satisfied on the inpatient unit. A lot of that has to do with staff and staffing levels and the right staff, correct? So kudos to everyone. We also have received multiple awards year over year from Press Ganey for our inpatient patient satisfaction scores. So there's a trophy case now on the inpatient unit. Some of the inpatient nurses didn't realize that those awards in there are inpatient awards that they have received from Press Ganey because our patients are so highly satisfied as compared to the benchmark. Now, the patients still came through the entire process, right? So they still got admitted, they still went through pre-op, they still went through the OR, recovery, and then to the floor. So everyone impacts patient satisfaction. It's just that the patient population that's awarded are those that stayed overnight. Does that make sense? Okay. And what do our patients say about us? They say a lot of good things, right? So when you receive a survey, you also have the opportunity to write comments. How many of you receive surveys? Every time you go somewhere now there's a survey, right? How many of you take the time to fill it out? Sometimes. Do you really take the time to actually write extra stuff? Okay, so the fact that patients take the time to write extra things means that they're generally highly satisfied or highly dissatisfied, okay? So we have lots of reasons to celebrate. When you read through these, you'll see a lot of it is about how did we make the patient feel, right? Did we communicate? Did we communicate clearly and appropriately? Did we meet their needs? Were they instructed in their discharge instructions or pre-op instructions? Were the staff nice? Did they go above and beyond? Did everyone make them feel welcome? Were they kind? Was the room nice? I was nervous, but you put me at ease. None of these comments are about what? Their surgery. Nobody ever says, thanks for making my knee better, right? I think that's already assumed that they were going to be made to feel better because they were having surgery. But it's more about how did we make them feel. Why is it important that they rank us highly? Is because when you're ranked highly, they also say, I would definitely recommend you. I've had surgery here multiple times and would always come back. I've had several procedures. I'm very satisfied. This is the second time I've been here. The hospital was great. Everything was terrific. I'm pleased that I chose this facility. So we know high satisfaction results in high referrals as well. Now, do we have some opportunities for improvement? Yes. The good news is we have fewer of those than we do the good things. So again, as you read through these, it's either about communication or how did we make the person feel, not about their surgical experience or their actual results. My recovery has been hard because it's long. It would have been helpful if it had been explained on the front end, communication. Is that coming from us? Is that coming from the doctor's office? Don't know, but it's our patient, right? So how could we enhance, communication? Pre-op education, again, about communication. I would have been more prepared if I was told how much money I would need at check-in. I had 2 pre-op calls, probably on the clinical side, but nobody told me that I would owe the money, right? So maybe the patient's confused, like you called me twice, but you didn't tell me about how much I owed until I got there, not understanding that's 2 different departments.
So Ann and I get a lot of calls, like, how much do I owe, and so we try to send them down to the right department, but usually it is the week of surgery, they're like very anxious, which I understand.
Exactly, and I mean, the admissions people know this better than anybody, right? So all of these are process related within the hospital, right? So if the patient doesn't get scheduled timely, and we don't get the pre-cert timely, and we can't verify the pre-auth timely, then we can't call the patient timely to try to collect. So a lot of this is, it's not that people aren't doing their job, it's that every one of our jobs impacts the next person in the line, right, to do their job. A lot of times too, you'll see lots of notes from our pre-admission staff, tried to contact, didn't answer. Who wants to answer the phone when they're told you owe me $2,600, you know? So, I mean, a lot of times they don't answer the phone. And then they get here the day of and they're dissatisfied. You know, part of our comments are, you have health insurance. You kind of know if you've met your deductible or if you haven't met your deductible. I will tell you that when this happens, you know, this is an elective surgical facility, but we also work with people. The admissions people know this, right? Well, we'll put you on a payment plan. Is there something we can do? You need to, you know, pay half now and half, you know. But it is frustrating that we've done all this communication except told them what they've owed until the day they show up and they're dissatisfied. Nurses let me cough all night and did not help me out of bed. I can't believe that nobody helped the person, but that's their perception, so that's the comment there. You know, would not help me to the portable toilet and then fussed when she did help me, question mark? Okay, she was probably trying to explain, don't get up out of bed without asking for help. The patient probably got up without asking for help, and then we fussed them. We probably were stern and said, but again, it's how the patient's perception of being dissatisfied, not ours. You know, no one cleaned the bathroom during the stay. It didn't really need a lot of cleaning, just a once-over. You know, just towels were probably piled up on the ground, and the patient's already telling you, look, I didn't need full service cleaning, but someone to check on me. Not terrible, right? Think of all the patients who come through the unit or through the hospital, and this is the only comments that have been made, can work on those. Growth and financial. I think people think all we care about is the finances, right? Well, we don't. We care about patient satisfaction and we care about employee satisfaction. But we have to have volume and we have to have met our financial goals so that we can employ everybody and not have to take out a loan for payroll and continue to buy and invest in the facility so that we can continue to have a bright future. You may or may not know that we budgeted a 10% increase in case volume year over year, and we haven't met it. We did not meet it the first quarter. It was a stretch goal, right? We want to always do better, not just meet where we were before. Some of that's related to retirees. We had doctors who've either left and are retired, and we did not know that information at the time we prepared the budget, so we haven't met their goals. How many of you know Dr. Griff retired? Well, he didn't tell us before we prepared the budget. So his volume is in there. Do we think we're going to lose his volume? No, we think it's going to be absorbed by his partners, but it may be a timing difference between him retiring in March before they pick up those new patients. Who knew Dr. Grissom was going to retire? We didn't. Dr. LeBlanc retired. Dr. Smith left in November. So the budget was already prepared when those events occurred. So we're gonna be okay. I don't want anyone to think, oh my gosh, she's telling me we're not going to meet budget and the hospital's going to close its doors. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there are some variances in the budget that we didn't plan for because we didn't have the information. So we haven't exceeded our budget for the first quarter. We do anticipate that we'll exceed it for April, so could be a timing difference as well. And then we have not met our net income, which is here's all the money coming in the door, here's all the money going out the door, what did we have left over? What we budgeted to have left over, we didn't meet, okay? So red doesn't mean we lost money. It just means we didn't make as much as we budgeted for. And why is that important? Because you want a bonus, and you want a raise, and you want new equipment. And the inpatient wants new TVs, and now they want the carpet removed, and they need new computers and chairs, and da-da-da-da. So that's why it's important that we meet our budgeted net income so that we can expend those things to make your life hopefully better while you're here. So our people goals, we talk about this, and people either like it or they hate it. But this is what we're doing. We've got your low, medium, and high performers, and people think that's offensive, right? Every one of us think we're a high performer. We all believe it, right? We do perfect 100% of the time, and how dare you tell me I'm not a high performer? Well, this isn't about your job, right? It's not necessarily about the skill set that we've hired you to do. It's more about your behavior and your attitude, right? It's more about, can I never find you because you're on break? Do you call in all the time? Are you more absent than your peers? Do you have a negative attitude? Do you say, I hate working here, I can't stand it? Those are the things that we talk about, right? So why is this so important? Because have you ever worked with a low performer?
Yeah.
What happens to the work environment? It brings everybody down. Right, and then what do? If you're a high or medium performer, you go look for a job somewhere else. And you're like, well, the organization's never going to deal with Ashley. Sorry, Ashley, you just happen to be sitting there. So I'm going to leave and go somewhere else. Or Megan's going to say, well, you know what? Ashley gets away with it. I'm going to start doing the same thing. And then our medium performers start mirroring our low performers. So that does not create a conducive work environment for employee satisfaction or patient satisfaction. Because you have to remember, employee satisfaction is highly correlated to patient satisfaction. If y'all are all miserable checking everybody and like, oh, what do you want? Our patients probably aren't going to be satisfied, okay? So we've done a lot of work around this. You've probably heard this in your evaluation if you've had one. Also, what we've done is started a 30, 60, and 90-day process where we're sitting down with new employees and evaluating them on their job performance as well as these attitude and behavioral indicators. Because when do you get the best employee? In the beginning. So if you're already called in 17 out of 21 days, it's probably not going to get better, right, in those first 30 to 60, 90 days. So part of our turnover is related to, look, this isn't working for you, this isn't working for us, we're going to go ahead and part ways earlier in the process than hanging on to them where those negative people can then impact our high performers. Does that make sense? I say all that to say some turnover is good turnover, right? We need to our goal is not to turn the people over. Our goal is to sit with them and say, here's what you need to work on, here's what's not working. coach them and give them an opportunity, because who owns your behavior? Right? Sometimes people aren't self-aware. Sometimes you think you've been at work all day long, every day on time, until we show you that you haven't. You know, we can all fool ourselves. I can do it too. So it's sometimes you have to sit with the employee and show them, and then you hopefully there'll be a behavioral change, and if there's not, then unfortunately we'll have to part ways, right? So we have not met our turnover for the year. Turnover is expensive, and I'm not talking just in terms of dollars. How many of you like to train new people as you're doing your full-time job? Right? It's hard, right? I mean, we had an inpatient nurse in here today saying, oh, thank goodness she's out of orientation on Friday because I'm trying to do my full-time job and orient a new person. That's hard. It's hard to acclimate new people into the workforce. It's hard to train them. And then it's really, really bad if you train them and spend all this time and then 90 days later they're gone and you're starting over again. Okay, so we don't want to turn people over, but we need to pick them right on the front end so that we don't have to. And then clinical turnover, of course, creates all kinds of issues because they are direct patient care, and we don't want to have to work short. So we haven't quite met our goals with turnover, but know that some of that's okay. All right, people, and communication, so important. A lot of times when people say, you know what, this organization lacks communication. I don't know anything that's going on. Nobody tells me anything, you know. Communication is two-way. You have to sometimes ask to receive. How many of you see your supervisor and or manager on a daily basis? Yeah. They're always around, right? I mean, we're not so hierarchical that you never see your supervisor or manager, so they're there for you to communicate. They pretty much have open door policies. If you have a question you need to be asking, that's part of communication. We have newsletters. How many of you read them? Some people do, some people don't. So we have redundancies in how we deliver communication as well. Emails, Teams, huddles, the newsletter I mentioned, the texting app, social media, email, all of these are forms of communication. So remember that when you're thinking about it. I don't want to go through the benefits again, but I want you to remember that we do have a free employee assistance, I was going to say application, free employee assistance program. Huge benefit to our employees. This is not a free program, it's free to you, okay? The organization is paying for it. So if you have any struggles in your life, you can access the employee assistance program at no cost to you, for yourself as well as your dependents. For example, it's tax season. Oh my gosh, I owe $5,000 in taxes. I'm stressed. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. I need somebody to help me with financial planning. 8 free sessions with the Employee Assistance Program can help you with that. You're raising a teenager. You want to pull her hair out. She needs to go to Employee Assistance, and so do you, to learn how to deal. Each of you get 8 free sessions. So it's not Kim gets 8 and she's done. She gets 8 per issue she may have. Okay, so if you're struggling, we don't want you to struggle in silence. We want you to go to HR and say, I need some help. Is there anything the organization can do for me? And we will refer you to the Employee Assistance Program. The individuals who have been either mandated to go, because we do mandate sometimes that employees go as a condition of their continued employment, and or have been voluntarily, 100% of them have said it has been extremely valuable and helpful to them. So I say that just because a lot of times you don't know that's a benefit because it's not coming out of your check and you're not paying for it. So please don't forget that you have that. We try to reward and recognize employees through various ways. I mentioned we're not having a Christmas party, or we didn't have one last year, but we're getting ready to have an off-site party. Do I have the details? I do not. But we are having one in the summer to celebrate Hospital Week, okay? So what we have heard from employees is, this is great that y'all do little things for us throughout the year, but what we really, really like is when we can all come together or have an opportunity to. It's not mandated, you don't have to, and have some fun outside of work. And so that's what we're trying to plan, hopefully for the month of June, and that's how we'll celebrate Hospital Week. So again, is that free? No, but we know how important it is to reward and recognize our employees. We get a lot of feedback from employees through this employee satisfaction survey, or the best places to work survey. That is, we've participated now, this will be our 4th year, I believe. we don't want to win the award, right? It's not about, are we going to be on the cover of 225 as the best place to work? That'd be a great bonus, but it's really about hearing from you and what those issues are and what your concerns are and how do we rank against other employees, employers, very similar to what we do in the employee satisfaction survey. So the first thing I need each of you to do is go into Paycom and make sure your email address is accurate, because that's how you're going to get sent the survey or the link. If you have an SSCBR email address, it'll go to that email, and then I need you to click the link and complete the survey, okay? It will come to your email May 31st, and you'll have until June 14th to complete it. And then we'll compile the results, and our next forum we'll go through again and say, this is where we have struggles, this is what we're doing well in, we need your feedback, how can we make this a better place to work? So that's the purpose of the survey. Feedback leads to improvement. It's not about the award. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, growth. Real quickly, we talked about the budget. What do you think has been the hugest growth year over year? If you're in the OR, I know you know what it is. Total joints, right? The total joint program has taken off, to some people's dismay and to other people's delight. Is the joint program cheap? No, it is not cheap. It's very expensive. So we've had huge growth in the joint program, so much so that we had to buy a second robot. So we now have 2 robots to do total hip and total knee procedures upstairs in the OR. Does anyone know what the names of the robots are? Would you? Thelma and Louise. Thelma and Louise. So Thelma and Louise are getting used quite frequently, and Thelma and Louise are expensive, like to the tune of like $2 million expensive, okay? And I say that to put into perspective, you know, how much money we're spending on capital to let you know that this is a stable organization. And we're going to talk about some grumblings you may hear about flexing and all that kind of stuff, but to not let you to be confused into thinking because we're trying to manage our finances, it's because we're not stable. We're very, very stable. Because of the Mako robot success, we've also had more CTs. And so now Nicole has said, hey, would you buy me a $600,000 new CT machine? To which we say, sure, no problem, Nicole. So the growth has also led to more capital purchases that were unplanned, one of which is a new CT machine. You want to work for an organization that is reinvesting in their capital, right? Because that means they're reinvesting in their future. So this one little slide represents almost $2.5 million, okay, that we now have to make sure we have enough volume to pay for. How many of you know or have heard the construction project that's going on? You're hearing about it for sure, are hearing it. We're hoping that will wrap up and we'll have 2 brand new beautiful ORs and a new SPD department by September of 2024. So hang in there a little bit longer. Then we'll do more construction on the minor rooms to give the OR more storage for all their toys. They have a lot of toys with this joint program. And then we'll start our 3rd floor project. We're going to add 7 observation beds. So again, all of this is growth and all of this is good for the stability of the company, but it's all very expensive, okay? So what we've had to now do is focus more on where can we reduce some costs, right? Because we have to still meet that budget so I can give you a bonus at the end of the year. So you may be hearing your managers talk more about staffing grids, staffing plans, flexing up when the volume is there, flexing down when the volume is not. And that has created some angst amongst some employees who feel like they can't ask for the things they need to do their job, or they feel like, oh, X is going to hit the fan. I need to go leave and look for somewhere else. All of this is to allay those fears. That's not true, okay? Yes, we have to manage our staffing dollars. That's just managing business. But I don't want anyone to say, oh, I really need a TV in the break room, but I can't ask for it because she just told me we spent $1 million on robot. That's not what I'm saying, okay? But as your nurse and managers and your leaders are going, wait, I may not need as many staff tomorrow, that's just good management. And we've done, I think, a very good job of trying to make sure we balance the flexing with balancing getting your hours, right? Because if you're not getting your hours, what are you going to do? You're going to go look for a job somewhere else that's going to give you those hours. I've probably said more than I should say, but I want you to know we're stable. We're spending a whole lot of money, and we're trying to manage our salary dollars just as good management of the business. But we're fine. Don't anyone get upset thinking we're closing the doors. And we've also had to spend almost $200,000 on additional parking. So it's not cheap, not a cheap place to try to operate. Any questions about the timeline for any of this? We think the third floor will be open April of 2024, 2025.
Okay.
Yeah, not in a month, April of 2025. And that's going to create a whole lot, that's probably going to create more disruption than the second floor project, right? Because we're going to be in your workspace. So we'll have to figure out how to continue to have high patient and employee satisfaction while doing that. But again, would they invest in the facility if they weren't planning on being here in the future? No, they would not. The other question is, are we going to have to cover these new 7 beds with the current staffing that we have? And the answer is no. There's additional staffing for those additional beds as well. All right. The external factors haven't changed, right? There's still so much competition for team members and employees, so much competition for patients. They have more choices, right? The Grove is now open. It's very similar to us in terms of, from a work-life balance. How many of you have been to the grocery store and have noticed that the price of goods and services has increased? Mm-hmm. Well, right, same thing at the hospital. Every Band-Aid we use now costs more than it used to. Every needle now costs more than it used to. Every joint implant now costs more than it used to. So the increased cost of goods and services and salaries and benefits has also affected, we don't have much control over it. That's all community driven too, with salaries and benefits that have led to increased salary costs and costs here. All right, so these are the only questions that were submitted. Can you please give me some more money? I would love to give everyone in here more money, right? Which we do. All of you have been eligible for a merit increase every year. Yes, you're right. Sometimes that merit increase doesn't cover the cost of the living increase. But again, how do we get people who need more money or want more money? We do market surveys, right? And we say, Lori does this every year. What is the Baton Rouge General paying? What is the Lake paying? What is Lake Surgery Center paying? What is Women's Hospital paying? And now, not specifically because they don't give us that information, right? But through a market survey, a market salary survey. And if individual job classes, if there's a move, like, hey, this used to be worth $1, now it's worth $2, we move the people in that class up to that market adjustment. But we don't just say, hey, we just spent $2.5 million on robots and we're going to give everybody a $5 an hour raise, because the market doesn't demand that. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'd love to give you more money. I can't unless Lori comes to me and says, hey, we need to move everybody in this job class based on the market. Does that make sense? Okay. Can the carpet on the third floor back station be removed? Yes. And in the break room, it can be. Probably going to time that when we're doing some construction, right? So it's to minimize the disruption. The point of this really too is we don't know what you need unless you tell us, right? So if it's nasty and it's gross, you need to tell somebody. If you need a new chair, you need to tell somebody. If you need a new computer, you need to tell somebody. Can the security people walk the halls? There are people in the hallways that don't work here. So inpatient came this morning. I was thinking that back stairwell, you got a whole bunch of They're like, it's not us, it's not us. It's probably the back hallway by the patient discharge, right, with PT right there, and then those patients wander around. Some of it's our employees who actually do work here, who either aren't in their proper uniform or don't have their name tag on, so people assume they don't work here. So that's why it's important that you wear your uniform and your name tag. But yeah, security is here. All of you know security is here 24/7, right? Some form of security, right? It's the sheriff's for a certain period of time, and then the contractor after that. Does anyone here feel like they work in an unsafe work environment? No? Because if you did, we need to know. Right, that's everything that was asked. That's all the data I need to throw at you. So here's what I want everyone to walk away with. The issues that you have brought to the table, are they huge?
No.
Are they small? Do you know of organizations that have bigger problems than we do? So we can fix these things. I'm not downplaying that they're important. Everyone wants their work environment. We spend more time at work than we do at home, right? So we want the environment we want you to be comfortable in your uniform, and we want you to be comfortable and not freezing and have your neck like this every day. So I'll have him look at that as well. We want you to like your uniform and get a jacket if you want one. So these are easy fixes, which is good. This is what we want. We want the easy fixes, not the real issues we have. All right, any other questions? Okay, well, thank y'all for coming. I very much appreciate it.